My only regret of being the last speaker of the day is that I see that I missed the waffle man already. It's always an honor to be here by the IYUN that Mrs. Achemzadeh pulls off so seamlessly while she's in the midst of building a mikveh, while she's being the car of all of Pico Robertson, while she's raising a beautiful mishpacha, bli ayin hara. It's really an honor to be part of this very choshev assembly of women today. I hope that next year we don't have to meet here in Pico Robertson. I hope that we're all standing together by the Beis HaMikdash. Amen. But in the meantime, while we're here, we have to get chizuk together. We have to open up our eyes just a bit more before Tisha B'Av comes upon us. Perhaps with all of the beautiful messages I'm sure that you've heard today, all the inspiring divrei Torah, the stories, the messages, we'll walk away with something that will change the way in which we're going to sit on the floor this year on Tisha B'Av. The topic of today's speech, the topic of today's Yom IYUN, is the concept of Simcha b'mitzvahs, of a person being happy while they're doing mitzvot. And it's a bit of an odd topic to choose right before Tisha B'Av is about to fall upon us. Because Chazal tell us in the Mishnah, Mishenichnas Av, from the month, when the moment that the month of Av enters in, Mematin b'simcha, a person is supposed to decrease the level of simcha, the level of joy that they have in their life. So how do we stand here for the next hour or two and speak about the idea of simcha b'mitzvahs when the main mitzvah that we are all involved in right now is the mitzvah of avelut, of mourning over the loss of the Beis HaMikdash. Mishenichnas Av, from the moment that the month of Av enters in, Mema'atin, we have to decrease our levels of joy, our levels of happiness, the excitement that we have for the things that are going around us in this world. And yet Chazal are very telling in their words. It doesn't say that from the time that the month of Av enters in, abolish all simcha from your life. From the time that this horrible month of Menachem Av enters in and we're thinking about the Churban HaBayis, the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, we should walk around depressed and sad. It says, Mema'atin b'simcha, just learn how to decrease the natural simcha, the joy that you have on a regular basis. Because a Jew is never, ever allowed to be depressed. A Jew is never allowed to ever give up hope. A Jew is never supposed to be anxious, never supposed to be worried, never supposed to be lying awake in bed at night with insomnia because of all the pressures that are weighing down on their head. It's not the way of Klal Yisrael. The way of Klal Yisrael is, b'simcha we serve the Rabbi Shalom. There was once, many years ago, a yeshiva bacher in Yeshivas Panovich in Bnei Brak. And he was struggling with depression. And he didn't know who to go and speak with. It was before Dr. Amiri had a practice. So he looked around the yeshiva at all of the Rabbanim that were there. Who will be able to help me with my problem? And he looked at the great mashkiach of Chatzkel Levenstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. And Rav Levenstein was a man who was always serious on his face. Yirah Shamayim was etched into his forehead. Once somebody who was a Talmud of Rav Chatzkel Levenstein lost their wallet in the streets of Tel Aviv. And a Chiloni, a non-religious Israeli, found the wallet on the ground. And he opened it up and he saw hundreds of shkalim in the wallet and he said, bingo, I just made a good profit today. And as he was pulling the money out of the wallet, along with the money came a picture. And it was a picture of Rav Chatzkel Levenstein. And he saw a man whose face was infused with Yirat Shamayim. A man whose face was infused with the fear of sin. And the man got seized with fear himself. And he tracked down the owner of the wallet and he returned every penny. And he said, I want you to know I was going to steal everything for myself. But in the zechut of your Rebbe in that picture, if that's what your Rebbe looks like, could you imagine what Hashem looks like? So this bacher was in yeshiva. And he was struggling with depression. And he saw the face of Chatzkel Levenstein. Every day was so serious. He figured he must be a very sad person who walks around so serious all the time. So he went to his Rebbe. And he told him, Rebbe, I'm coming to you because I believe you're the one that can help me through my predicament. And he begins explaining to him his depression, how he's sad all the time, the things that are going wrong in his life. Rabbi, please tell me, how do you go forward every single day? So Rav Levenstein looks at the boy and he says, I have no idea what you are talking about. I've never been sad or depressed a single day in my life. You could be serious. You could be intense. You could be preoccupied sometimes with different things that are going on in your life. But a Jew is never allowed to get depressed and down. Mema'atin b'simcha means we decrease the levels of joy. When you go to a levaya, Rahman al-Itzlan, you don't sing and dance at the levaya. Someone died, you're sad. If your husband ended up losing a lot of money in a business deal that you were counting on and banking on, you don't come home and dance and enjoy with in front of him. You're sad, he lost so much money. If one of your kids, you get a call from the principal, he was playing baseball on the yard and he ran into a wall and he broke his arm, you don't start saying, thank you. Oh, well, if you listen to Rabbi Bezak, you do say, thank you, Hashem. You're not singing and dancing, oh, my child, he got hurt, you start crying. You're a good mother, you start crying right away. It's my fault, I shouldn't have sent him to school today. I knew he was going to get hurt. Mamatin b'simcha means, in this month, where we're only a few days before the sad day of Tisha B'Av, which reminds us of the Chorban Bayis Rishon, Bayis Sheni, which included in there is all of the tzarot, all of the suffering of all the generations, inquisitions and pogroms and holocausts, Khomeini and everything, it's all included in this one day. Mamatin b'simcha. No one in this room is going to get depressed. No one's going to beat themselves up. No one is going to drive themselves crazy. But we're going to appreciate what it means only to decrease, but never to lose our simcha, never to lose our joy. The Gemara tells us a stira, a contradiction in verses written by Shlomo HaMelech in Koheles. In one verse he says, V'shibachti ani asa simcha. I praise the attribute of simcha, of joy. Uksi, but he has another verse in Koheles. Ule simcha maze oise. What is happiness, what is joy going to do for you anyway? So King Solomon, which one is it? Do we praise? Do we give accolades to the trait of simcha? Or do we say, how foolish people are, they're running after happiness and joy in this world, it's worthless. Says the Gemara, Loi Kasha. No question over here. 2 verses, they're talking about 2 different things. Says the Gemara, the first verse, which is praising Simcha, Simcha shel mitzvah. The joy that a person has when they do a mitzvah. Ule simcha maze, and the one simcha that we are criticizing, zu simcha she'enoi shel mitzvah. That is the simcha that you get when you go to Cancun for winter break. Simcha she'enoi shel mitzvah. Sorry to let you know, it's not a mitzvah to go to Cancun. It might be fun, might have good weather over there, might have good margaritas, that's true. But it's certainly not davening at the Kotel HaMa'aravi. It's not going to Cave Rachel. It's not giving tzedakah. It's not saying Tehillim. Probably all your husbands have to say a lot of Tehillim in Cancun when they're there, to make sure that they survive unscathed spiritually and their eyeballs are still in their head. Says the Gemara, from this we learn the following message. And that is, She'ein Shechina Shoira. The Shechina will not dwell. Lo mitoich atzvus, not amongst depression. V'lo mitoich atzvus, not if you're lazy. V'lo mitoich schoich, not if you're laughing too much. V'lo mitoich kalus reish, not if you're hanging around in the coffee shops, schmoozing away all day long. It's exciting. It's good lattes over there, or bubba, whatever that is. But the Shechina does not dwell over there. And not if there's too much conversation. And not from extraneous words and silly things that we get ourselves involved with. It might be fun. It might be exciting. It might feel joyous, but guess what, says the Gemara? The Shechina is not there. Simcha shel mitzvah, the only place you'll find the Shechina in your life is when you are engaged in a mitzvah that you are doing besimcha, with joy. A mitzvah with simcha. A person could spend an entire lifetime. You said Sefer Tehillim every single day of your life. You kept the kashrut to the highest level. You have like a goat in the backyard that the Rebbe comes and checks every once in a while. You sent your children to the best schools. You spent so much money. Tzniut. You have a thing up to the ceiling on top of your head. No one will ever accuse you of not being a tzanua. And you're going to get to Shemayim after 120 years. And you're waiting for all the schar, all the reward, the big chelik ba'olam haba. And you start passing through the streets of Bel Air. You see these big mansions and estates, tzaddikim standing in the doorway, Shalom Aleichem, welcome. And then you go Nebach down to like Worcester or something like that. And there's some koira, a younger man over there, Shalom Aleichem, welcome. And the bus keeps going farther and farther and farther. The next thing you know, you're in Tarzana, California. And they give you a little house north of the boulevard. that has 2 bedrooms and 1,000 square feet. And they say, welcome to your portion in the world to come. And you say, Rabbi, I don't understand. I kept Shabbat, I kept Kashrut, I said Tehillim every single day. I lit 17 candles every Motzei Shabbat for every single tzaddik in the whole world. I never spoke Lashon Hara, except when I was speaking Lashon Hara. I lived in Los Angeles. I'm a tzaddikah in Los Angeles. What am I doing in this shack? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, when you did all of those mitzvot, you did them b'simcha, or you did them b'tircha. You did them as it's SHIUR. You did them because you love mitzvot, because you want to do mitzvot, because you look forward every moment when you wake up in the morning. You can't wait to jump till the next day and do everything you can for Hashem. Or is every day, how many more Tehillim do I have to say? How many more people are sick in the world and I'm on another WhatsApp chat trying to save their life? Hashem, can you make people have refuah shleima already? How much do I have to pay for tuition this year? What, the school raised their prices again? What do they think? I need to save my money for Pats. What are they talking about? The price of meat went up. I don't have more money for education. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you did not do the mitzvot b'simcha in your life, ein hashchina shore alehen. The Shechina did not dwell upon you. The Arizal, the holy Arizal, once told over to one of his closest Talmidim, the reason that he was zocher, that he experienced all of the levels of Ruach HaKodesh, of the Veikut and Hashem that he had in his life, the reason that he was able to uncover and reveal the Zohar HaKodesh, the Klal Yisrael, all of the Kabbalah like nobody else did since the days of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, as he says in his own language, was because Shayasameach ba'asiyas kol mitzvah, I rejoiced in the performance of every mitzvah, Simcha gedoylo lo ein tachlis, a tremendous joy that knew no bounds. The Arizal, the greatest Kabbalist of the time, whose Torah we are still living on today. Not down there, 2 doors down. They're not living on his Torah. But those of us that are living on the Torah of the Arizal, he did everything b'simcha. And he had a hard life, trust me. From Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisrael, traveling, he didn't travel first class alone. He traveled on a donkey and a wagon. And he went in the summer months and the winter months. And he didn't have food, and he didn't have a place to lodge and to sleep. And he went through hardships when he got to Eretz Yisrael. And he eventually contracted a disease and he died at the age of 40 years old. And yet the Arizal said, everything I did in mitzvot was b'simcha. And when a person serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha, they are zocher, they will merit, hashrat hashchina will dwell upon them. I remember years ago, maybe almost 30 years ago, I was a bacher learning in yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, and I had the great zechut to meet Rabbi Uri Zohar Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Anyone who doesn't know who he was the most famous Hollywood actor in all of Israel. And one day he came in contact with an Orthodox Jew. He tried to embarrass the Orthodox Jew to show him that Torah doesn't mean anything. Instead, the Orthodox Jew proved him wrong and showed him Torah is emet. And he went on to become a Baal Tshuva Amiti, sitting in talit and tefillin till about 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, learning and learning and learning. His wife, there's a beautiful story that he and his wife, she wasn't interested in Yiddishkeit, in becoming religious. And at a certain point, they decided, you know what, it's just not going to work. And they were going to get divorced. And the night before the divorce was going to take place, Orizor could not sleep. And he's tossing and turning, and he looks over at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and he sees his wife is not in her bed. So he begins looking around the house for his wife. She's not religious at the time. And he comes downstairs into the kitchen, and he sees his wife sitting at the kitchen table, holding the Sefer, the Rambam, in her hand. And he walks in, and she looks up at him and she says, I have no idea what it says in this book. But if this is what you are pursuing with your life, then I want to pursue it as well. And she went on to become a tzaddikis. I was in their house once on a Friday night meal. They're talking about Hollywood actor. He used to have a mansion in like Beverly Hills of Israel. He was living in an apartment. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that this room is bigger than their entire apartment. The walls were sparse. There was nothing on the walls except a clock and a few bookshelves made out of metal. By the Shabbos meal, you would think there's the Hollywood actor, they're going to have roast and they're going to have rib steaks. First they started off with fish, then they served fish, and then they served more fish. I don't think they had money for meat. That night, as his wife got up to go and take out the next fish course from the kitchen, there was an instantaneous thunder and lightning storm that took place. And Elazar got very excited and he led everybody in the brachot over the thunder and the lightning. And at the end, everybody was answering Amen. And as we're answering Amen, the Rabbanit is walking back into the dining room. And she says, Ma kara, is the bracha, ma kara. And he said, oh, there was just thunder and lightning. We said the brachot. I missed it. He said, it's okay. Lo, beseder. And she went like a little girl. And she sat by the window looking out onto the skyway of Yerushalayim. And she would not leave until there was another bolt of lightning and another round of thunder. And she said the brachot, and then she was beaming ear to ear. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants that when we do a mitzvah, we do the mitzvah besimcha, not chalila. That we do the mitzvah betircha, where it's hard and it is a burden. And these are not my words. These are the words of the Rambam and the Magid Mishnah. The Rambam says the following: Hasimcha sheyismach odem ba'asiyas hamitzvah. The joy that a person has when he performs a mitzvah. Ube'avas hakel shetziva be'en, and you have to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu because He is the one that commanded us to do them. Avodah gedolah, it's a big job and a task that we have. V'chol ha'maineya atzmai misimcha zu, and anyone who holds them back from serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu with this simcha, it is fitting that Hashem will exact His punishment from such a person. Shenemar, like it says, I think the verse that inspired this year's Yom IYUN Tachad Asher Lo Avadeto Es Hashem Elokecha B'Simcha U'Betuv Leiva Miroiv Koil. Why did Hashem bring the destruction upon Klal Yisrael? Why did He send us off into the Galut and destroy the Beis HaMikdash? Because we did not serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha, with joy. Is it so easy to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy all of the time? Does He have any rachmanut on us? Sometimes you wake up in the morning, not into it. I'm not feeling it today, as they say in Pico Robertson. I had a rough day, I had a rough night, the baby was keeping me up the whole night, my husband's a louse. He forgot my birthday again. How many times do I have to remind him again he forgot it? Then you have like the Hebrew birthday and the English birthday. He forgot the Hebrew, so you remind him, my English one is coming tomorrow. Okay. You'll have to remind him again next year. I'm sick, I have a headache, I'm not feeling well, I have stress, I have pressures, all the different excuses that we have. Does Hashem really expect that a person is going to serve Him b'simcha all of the time? Is that what Hashem wants from us? Are we malachim? Are we angels? Are we superhuman beings that are not bothered by what's going on in the world around us? A person wakes up and have a headache. A person has a cold. A person has body aches. They have to wake up and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha. So there's a sefer called Bilvavi Mishkan Evne. And he quotes over there famous words from the Zohar HaKadosh. And he says like this: Taryag mitzvot, the 613 mitzvot, Hem rak shorashim, they are the roots of everything. And the Zohar writes, what does that mean? Hem taryag itin. There are 613 eitzot, pieces of advice that Hashem gives us. Eitzah is the Shema. What is the advice that Hashem is giving us with these mitzvot? Says the Bevavi Mishkan Evna. It is that Taryag eitzos la'adam Keitzad yidabe ka'adam b'kainai. Every mitzvah that a person is going to do is the gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us to be able to be Dovid, to connect ourselves to the Ribono Shel Olam. Every time that you open your mouth and you pray, you're connecting to Hashem. That's not something to be happy about. Every time you open up a Sefer Tehillim that Dovid HaMelech wrote thousands of years ago, and there is a person in the hospital that is sick, and they need a refuah shalomah, and you say those words, and you know that Hashem is listening, and you know that Hashem can heal them, and then you find out, in fact, they did get better. That's not a simcha. That's not a joy. Every time that you sit at the Shabbat table and you hear the zmirot and you see everybody making the brachot on the wine, on the challah, enjoying the seudah that you cooked, oneg Shabbat, the pleasure of Shabbat. That's not a simcha. That's not a joy. Years ago, I heard once about a great Rosh Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. His name was Rav Asher Zelig Rubinstein, Zeichet Tzadik Livracha. He loved to daven, to pray so much. I heard that when he would daven, he was like a little child in front of their father, and he would giggle in front of Hashem that he had the zechut to talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I always said to myself, I need to see this with my own eyes. Who loves davening so much that when they're standing in front of Hashem, they're actually like laughing with joy that they have the schus to stand before Hashem? So one night before Arvit, in Yeshivas Ner Yisrael, I see, lo and behold, in walks Rav Asher Zelig Rubenstein. And I'm watching, where's he going to stand for Arvit? And he's standing a good 20 to 30 rows from where I usually pray. I said, I'm not going to pass up this opportunity. So before Arvit started, I moved my seat and I went to sit like 2 seats away from Rabbi Rubenstein. And I was waiting for the Shemona Esrei. Now, you're not really supposed to do this, but I did it anyway. In the middle of my Shemona Esrei, I looked over to see how was he davening. I just had to see. And sure enough, I see him take 3 steps back, 3 steps forward, and he's laughing, and he's smiling, and he's davening and talking to the Ribbono Shel Olam. Because if every mitzvah is a way that I'm going to become Dovid, I'll cling to the Ribbono Shel Olam. If every mitzvah will take me out of this world and bring me into the world of Hashem, out of my problems, out of my worries, out of my difficulties, my challenges, and I'm now one with the Ribbono Shel Olam. So who is not going to be Simcha? And if a person has the opportunities to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they don't do it b'simcha, says Hashem, that's why the Chorban, why the destruction of Klal Yisrael comes upon us. Because you had so many opportunities, so much time, so many mitzvot, like the Rambam asks, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us 613 mitzvot? Wouldn't 2 or 3 be enough? We'd be pretty busy with 2 or 3. Okay, 10, 18, Chai. Fine, 26 in Pico Robertson. 26 would be enough. Shabbos, Taharat HaMishpacha, Kashrut, that's good. Why 613? That's a lot of mitzvot. All day long, I'm busy doing mitzvot. All day long, busy, 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 busy. Yeah, you know why? Because everyone is another connection to the Ribbono Shel Olam. Do you want to be connected to Pico and Robertson? You know, I just came from the East Coast. And I'm not sure, it's a toss-up between the East Coast and the city over here who has more restaurants per capita. Is that the connection that you want? Or is the connection that you want with the Ribbono Shel Olam? Says the Maggid Mishnah on these words of the Rambam. V'ikar adover, the main thing is don't do a mitzvah because you have no choice. And there's an obligation that's weighing down on you. You are forced into it. It's against your will. Chas v'chalila. School is anus. For some of you coming here today, it's probably against your will. Hopefully you got a lot out of it. Going to your mother-in-law's house for the Sunday barbecue again and again and again. Why aren't you laughing at that joke? That is the anus. That is when you're under duress. You're trying to be a good wife, make your husband happy. He never makes you happy, but you have to make him happy. But to do a mitzvah, to keep Shabbat, to learn Torah, to open your Siddur every day and pray to Hashem, to say Tehillim, to help somebody in need, whether it's with your money, whether it's with your words, whether it's with your time. All of them are mitzvot. That's a burden. Chas v'chalila. Elechayiv la'aseisan v'usamech v'asiyosan. Rather, a person should say, what a zechut, what a merit I have. And I rejoice in the mitzvah that HaKadosh Baruch has given me. V'yaseh atov mitzad shu toiv, I'll do good because it is good. V'yivcho be'emet mitzad shu emet, I do because it's the right thing to do. I want to do it. When we wake up in the morning, this is how you'll know yourself. Are you looking forward to another day of mitzvot? You have to be very honest with yourself. If it's too late because you woke up already today, think about it tomorrow. When you wake up in the morning and that alarm clock goes off and you open up one eye and you say, really? Already? Didn't I just go to sleep? And then you press snooze. And then 9 minutes later, it starts ringing again. And then you open the other eye. Really? No, it's too early. And then you wake up, and then you start your chores. Getting the kids up is a chore. Davening shacharit is a chore. Going to the store and buying the kosher food. When did eggs cost so much money? Kosher eggs. But there's kosher chickens in the world that only lay kosher eggs? And then there's tuition. And then there's the SHIUR that you have to go to. And then they announce 7 times, can anybody help us set up for the Yom IYUN? What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Is there anyone here that could stay after the class today and help fold up all the chairs and put them away? Suddenly everybody, what? Did someone say something? Says the Maggid Mishnah, every single mitzvah that you have is an opportunity to do the will of the Ribono Shel Olam. It's not a tircha, it's not a burden. It is a zechus, it is a merit. It's not something that should be, you feel a punishment. It is the greatest zechus, the greatest merit, the greatest simcha in the world. But if we don't do mitzvot b'simcha, if we don't serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu the way that He wants us to, what does He say? My Shechina cannot dwell upon you. There's a beautiful story of a couple in Eretz Yisrael, the Millers, who for 15 years from the time that they were married tried desperately to have children. And they were never zeicha to have children. They went to all of the doctors, they went to all of the rabbanim, they went to the kivrei tzadikim and they prayed their hearts out. But after 15 years, HaKadosh Baruch Hu still did not answer their prayers. So finally they went to the biggest specialist in all of Israel. His name is Dr. Ami Myers, an Israeli Jew, not religious, but he's known as the miracle worker. And everybody knows the last stop in infertility is Dr. Myers' office. If he can't do it, nobody could do it. And so the Millers came, and they brought all of their 15 years of paperwork, and they took some more tests and more exams. And Dr. Myers, the miracle worker, went through everything. And with a very heavy heart, he turned to this couple and he told them, I'm very sorry. There's nothing that I can do. You're not going to have children. I'm sorry. Rabbi and Mrs. Miller look at each other, totally shocked and dejected. And then Rabbi Miller pauses for a moment and he turns to the doctor and he says, Doctor, would you do me the honor of coming to my home for a Su'udat mitzvah on Wednesday evening? Sudat mitzvah. The doctor felt so bad. He's not a religious person at all, but he said, the least I can do for this poor couple. Wednesday night, he comes to the home. The table is set with all of the finery. The smells of a delicious Suda are wafting from the kitchen. Everyone's sitting around the table. And they're wondering, what is this Sudat mitzvah that Rabbi Miller is going to celebrate tonight? And so he gets up to speak and he says, all of you are probably wondering, what Masechta did I finish in Shas that I'm making a Suda tonight? Which Seder, which part of the Gemara did I finish tonight that I'm going to make a Sudat mitzvah? You're probably wondering that. He said, I didn't finish a tractate in the Talmud. I didn't finish all of Shas. He said, but I'm making a siyum on the tractate of Hishtadlut, of all of the effort that my wife and I put in the last 15 years. Until this time, I did everything. I went to every doctor, I went to every grave, and I prayed, I went to every rebbe and got brachot. For 15 years, my wife and I have been running around doing everything that we possibly can. And we have exhausted all of the possibilities. And tonight, I make a siyum because my wife and I have done our job to the best of our abilities. And then, in an emotional, heartfelt plea to Hashem, he said, Ribono shel olam, we did all of our hishtadlut, and now we realize and we know that if we are ever going to be zocher to have a child, it's all up to you, ein od milvado. And he starts crying, and his wife starts crying, and everybody's emotional there. Even the doctor, not religious doctor, was moved to tears. And the meal went on. And everybody ate, amazed, in awe of Rabbi Miller and his wife. And about 1 year later, the doctor receives a call from Rabbi Miller. And he says, Doctor, I'd like to invite you to a Sudat mitzvah, the bris, the Brit Milah of our son. The doctor comes to the Brit Milah and he has a kippah on his head. And he said, I saw miracles. I'm not going to put on a kippah and start believing in Hashem. And that itself began his path of tshuva, and he became dati, chazer b'tshuva, because there was one Jew who, instead of being broken, instead of getting down, instead of throwing in the towel, b'simcha, he got up and he said, Hashem, I did my job 15 years, you take over, you do your job. The Gemara tells us, along these lines, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Kol mitzvah shekiblu aleim b'simcha. Every mitzvah that the Jewish people accepted upon themselves with joy. Could go milah, like the mitzvah bit milah. Like it says, Sas anoichi al masecha, I rejoiced over your words, Hashem. K'meitzei shomer rav, like I found a treasure. Adayin oisin oisa b'simcha, until this very day. You will find that the Jewish people continue to do that mitzvah b'simcha. The most unaffiliated Jew in the entire world will still do the mitzvah Brit Milah. And every parent that ever brought their child to the mayo and brought them to the mitzvah and did the mitzvah brit milah, everybody knows the simcha, the joy that is there in that mitzvah. What, you're torturing a child? You're cutting him, he's crying his head off? But everybody's smiling. And everybody's crying. And everybody's saying Mazel Tov. Why? Because the Gemara says, Kol mitzvah shekiblu aleim b'simcha. Every mitzvah that was accepted by Klal Yisrael b'simcha, Avraham Avinu was rejoicing, 99 years old. He was the moyel, he was the sadek, he was the caterer, he was everything. But he did it b'simcha. We still do it b'simcha today. Perhaps we can say another pshat in this Gemara. And that is that kol mitzvah shekiblu aleim b'simcha. Any mitzvah that we as individuals will accept upon ourselves b'simcha, with joy. Every Shabbat that you do b'simcha, with joy. Every word of Tehillim, every word of prayer that you say b'simcha, you accept it with joy. Oiser and oiser b'simcha, we will still do it today with joy. But any mitzvah that you are not doing b'simcha, any mitzvah which is a burden upon you, which is a chore upon you, which bothers you, that you have to pray every day, have to pray Hashem. Didn't you hear me yesterday? I'm in a rush today. I have to get to Pilates. I don't have time right now for Shemona Esrei. She called the rabbi. Can I say Shemona Esrei after Pilates? After Pilates, yes. After yoga, no. Any mitzvah that a person does begrudgingly, with a scowling face. The biggest nightmare in the world of Jewish women is a 3-day Yom Tiv. 3 days of cooking. 3 days of meals. 3 days of cleaning up. 3 days of watching your husband disappear right after the meal is over because he has to take a nap. Rabbi the Miller Zatzal said that when a woman is placing the chicken or the roast or the challah into the oven, she should think to herself, I'm bringing a korban to Hashem. That's a simcha. That's not a chore. That's a schus, that's a merit. Kohanim can't bring korbanot today. If a Jew did an avei and he wants to bring a korban chatan, he can't bring a korban today. If I'm grateful to Hashem, I want to bring a korban todah, I can't bring a korban today. But you put the challah in the oven with the right kavanah, korban. So you do it with a smile, or you do it with begrudgingly. Any mitzvah that a person takes upon themselves b'simcha, adayin oisin oisa b'simcha, you'll do it b'simcha all of your life. We have so much in Klal Yisrael. We have schools. We have Bati Knesiot. We have yeshivot. We have summer camps for our children. We can go away on beautiful vacations where you can always catch a minyan and kosher food. We have nice homes. We have cars. We're paying the bills the best that we can. Most of you, Baruch Hashem, are married. You have families. And those that are not, you should get married. You should have families, Bezat Hashem. We are a nation that is blessed with so much from the Ribbono Shel Olam. But we're not walking around b'simcha with everything that we have. You get the latest Honda Odyssey, and you pull out of your driveway in the morning, and your neighbor just got the hybrid Sienna. Ah! I knew I should have got that car. What are you talking about? The Ribbono Shel Olam has blessed us. There's so much Torah. There's so much bracha. There's so much opportunities for mitzvot in the world today. And we're missing the one key ingredient. Simcha. Rejoice. Be happy to be a Jew. Take advantage of another time to daven to Hashem. Somebody needs your help. Don't put it off. Run to do the chesed. Run to organize the event. Run to find another, $150,000 to build the mikveh over here. 2 million. Go strike an oil well somewhere in the deserts of Palm Springs. If you love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you love His Torah, and you love the mitzvot, then you will cherish every opportunity that you have. And Chazal are telling us, but if you don't, and in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He knows what's really going on inside of you, it is a chore and a burden and a hassle. And you wish that you could be doing something else? Ein Shechina Shora Aleihen. The Shechina will not dwell upon us. And if there's no Beis HaMikdash standing in Yerushalayim, and there's no Kohanim to bring Korbanos, and no Levim to sing their shirim, their songs, and Klal Yisrael cannot gather together as one on Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. And there's so much tragedy in Klal Yisrael today. So many broken hearts, so many broken families, so many broken people. So many people suffering daily and nightly. Then the Shechina is not resting Himself upon us. Because if the Shechina was here, we would be the most blessed nation in the entire world. Nobody would be sick. Nobody would be struggling. Nobody would be in pain. Everybody's life would be exactly the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it. A life of joy, a life of bracha, a life of goodness. So perhaps this year, as Tisha B'Av is coming upon us, we need to begin to get honest with ourselves. Look at all the brachas we have. Look at all the goodness, look at all the opportunities, and ask yourself when you wake up in the morning, am I excited by another day to be able to serve the Ribbono Shel Olam? Or am I bothered that I have another day to serve the Ribbono Shel Olam? Are the mitzvahs a burden, or are they my greatest simcha, my greatest joy? I want to leave you off with one last story. I know that the hour is late, and I hope that none of us have parking tickets on Robertson right now. There's a Yid, there's a Jew in Klal Yisrael, his name is Rabbi Yonason Schwartz. He's what's called a badcha, and he goes around to weddings and he makes people laugh, he helps them to rejoice. He has different things that he says and songs that he sings. Some of the famous songs that maybe your children even sing by the Shabbos table, he's the author of those songs, composer. He's been dealing as late with couples that are going through marital strife, and he's helping to keep them together. And he himself had a very hard life. His mother, he was born in Eretz Yisrael, in Meir Sharon. He was one of 6 children, 5 sisters and a boy. That's hard enough already. His mother, when she was 31 years old, Rachmana litzlan, she got sick and she passed away. And he was about 9 years old, I believe, at the time. He said he remembered at the Levaya, so many people came because it was an unusual thing for such a young woman to pass away. They would just wanted to see a 9-year-old boy say Kaddish. His sisters eventually went all to different homes in different places, either orphanages or someone to live with relatives in America, and he was left at home with his father. And his father, he said, was a businessman. And his father was busy with work all the time, and so he grew up. He was 9 years old. His mother passed away. His sisters were all out of the house. His father was working all day long. He was basically by himself. And he was taken advantage of. He was bullied in school. He was abused physically, emotionally, sexually, everything. Had a very hard life. And somebody asked him, how did you overcome everything in your life? How did you push forward as a young boy all by yourself? Eventually came to America at 19 years old, got married within a few days, ended up getting divorced 7.5 years later with children. How did you do it? How did you rise up from the challenges of life? And he said, it's all because of my grandfather, my mother's father, whose name was Baruch. He said, my grandfather survived Auschwitz. When he went into Auschwitz, he had a wife and 4 children. When he left Auschwitz, he was all by himself. His family was killed. He came to Eretz Yisrael. He found a new wife, they got married, they began building a beautiful family, Baruch Hashem, Bli Ayin Hara. And all of his children died in his lifetime. He went from the Gehenna of Auschwitz, he lost a wife and 4 children. He came to the Holy Land, Eretz Yisrael. He got remarried. He was building. Some of his children were married already with their own children, but every one of his children died in his lifetime. So this, Rav Yonason Schwartz is telling the story, and he says, my mother was the youngest, and she was the last one to die. She died on a Tuesday, and Friday night, we were getting ready to go to shul for the first time since the Levaya. My grandfather was a Vishnitzer Chassid, he was a Hasidic Yid. And on Friday nights, he used to sing and dance with such emotion and such fire and such simcha in shul. Everybody knew that if you want to see a Yid that's serving the Rebbeinu with joy, you watch Rav Baruch over there, watch the way that he dances, jumping up and down, leaping for joy, with fire in his bones. The fathers used to take their little children, hold them up so they could see and say, look, Yingo, look at that man over there, look how he serves Hashem. So nobody knows. What's my grandfather going to do on this Friday night when we come to shul? When they sing Lecha Doidi, what's he going to do? Is he going to come in sad and somber and depressed that he just buried his last child, Rahmana Litzlan? Or is he going to serve Hashem? Ivdu es Hashem besimcha. He said, I was a young boy, and my grandfather and I were walking into the shul. And right before we walked in, my grandmother calls my grandfather over and she says, Baruch, everyone is watching you tonight. Are you going to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha? Or are you going to walk into that room sad and depressed? Everybody is watching you. And And he said, my grandfather with superhuman strength walked into that shul. And when they began singing Lecha Doidi like he did every single Friday night, the fervor and the fire and the energy and the enthusiasm and the Simcha came to life. And he danced like he never danced ever again. On that Friday night, after he had just buried the last one of his children. Said Rav Yonason Schwartz, this image is seared in my memory. And every time that I find myself getting down, and every time that I find myself going through struggles, and every time that the simcha that I know that I should have and I could have is not as great as it is, I think about my Zayda Baruch. I think about what he went through, what he experienced, what he lost. And yet he never stopped serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha u'betuv levav, with a good heart. May we be Zeicha im Yetz Hashem, that we examine our lives and we look at all the good that we have, and we see all the brachot that Hashem is showering upon us, and the 613 opportunities that Hashem has given each and every one of us to be Dovid, to connect ourselves to the Ribono Shel Olam. And if we will do that on this year, we still have a couple of days left before Tisha B'Av, we have to be on the floor? No, Kari Alai Moyed. Tisha B'Av is called a Moyed. A Moyed is a convocation, a Yom Tov, a festival. And on a festival, you have to be happy. May we be Zeichim Yetz Hashem, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu fills our hearts and fills our souls with understanding, with the vision, with the insight that we need to be able to appreciate the beautiful life of Torah and mitzvot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us, to be able to push away the worries and the fears and the anxiety and the stresses of life. And from the time that we wake up in the morning till we go to sleep at night, serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be mashra Shechinasai Aleichem. Hashem will rest His Shechina upon all of us with the binyan Beis Shlishi, the building of the third Beis HaMikdash, b'mheira v'yameinu.